Welcome to my scientifically informed insider look at mental health topics. If you find this video to be interesting or helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Hello, this is Dr. Grande. I'm recording this video on the 23rd of February, 2020. And yesterday, on the 22nd, my channel hit 200,000 subscribers. So I just wanted to make this video to say thank you. It's really an honor to be able to produce this content and have such a positive reaction. When I first started it, I didn't even know somebody could subscribe to the channel. I didn't know that was a thing, right? So a big change from more than 5 years ago till the present time. I hit 100,000 subscribers back in late July 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So roughly 7 months to add another 100,000 subscribers. Again, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. It's, again, more than I could have ever expected or hoped for. I'm glad there's a positive response to this type of content based on what we can discover from scientific literature and from clinical experience in mental health. So it's very encouraging, and the support and encouragement you provide through the comments and emails I receive and other messages through other social media is just phenomenal. Again, it just makes a huge difference for me and encourages me to keep making these videos and to keep trying to come up with new angles and new topics and to take all the different questions I get and kind of put them into these composites, right, to form these questions out of many questions that I can then answer. So I want to try to answer a question in this video that I've received a few times, and I kind of been putting the answer off a bit because it's not really about mental health in general. It's not really about science. It's something about me. And I'm really my least favorite topic. So I thought here with this 200,000 subscriber video, I'll go ahead and answer this question about emotional regulation. So sometimes I get asked, how do I regulate emotions during the videos? How do I at least appear to be objective and unbiased? And of course, I believe I'm objective and unbiased, but no one's perfectly objective. So it's, of course, a struggle for anybody who has to kind of take all this information and refine it, summarize it, and present it. They're always going to inject some bias into it. But I really do work hard to minimize that. And one of the ways I try to minimize that, and I'm not always successful at this, is trying to really strongly regulate my emotional reactions to particular topics, right? To not let my emotions, kind of expressed as feelings, interfere with that objectivity. So I was thinking about this. There are many, many different feelings, right? There's hundreds and hundreds of feelings, but there's only 6 basic emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, surprise, and fear. So I thought I'd answer the question by going through each of those emotions and talking about how I try to regulate that in these videos so that I can appear, again, objective. I'm trying to be objective. Who knows if I really accomplish that, but I make an effort. Looking at these emotions, before I get to that part, it's important to understand a little bit about my process for making a video because that helps me to regulate the emotions quite a bit. So when I get questions in, I keep them in Word documents, right? So pretty much every question I receive, I put them in these documents. I only miss some just by mistake. I try to get every single question and load them in, type them in. And what I do is I try to find themes and patterns in all of these questions and then create these composites. So the questions I actually answer in the videos. Now sometimes these are just directly asked questions, and sometimes again they're composites. Most of the time they're composites. So as I'm looking through this information, I put a question together. I usually spend a little bit of time thinking about the question, reading just a little bit about it, maybe forming some initial thoughts, and then when I reach the level where I feel like I can answer it, I really start to dig in to the research literature. And again, my process involves reading anywhere from 5 to 15 articles, sometimes more, not often more, but sometimes. And I synthesize the information from those articles, combine it with my experience, and that's how I kind of come up with the outline that I then use to record the videos. So because there's this delay kind of built in, I'm not immediately going from looking at the question to reading to putting the outline together. That helps reduce some of any type of emotional reaction that I might have. For instance, it kind of eliminates surprise altogether, right? I'm not surprised by the content because I prepared it for all this time in advance. And fear isn't really a part of what I do either. It's not really a reaction I would have to the content. I don't have a reason to be afraid of these mental health topics. Now, disgust, that's a little bit different, especially with some of the videos on like true crime. There is certainly a disgust element, but again, I've seen this so many times and I've prepared for the video that I can minimize that. In terms of anger, I don't really have a tendency to get angry easily. I can get angry, but it's not common. I don't even know if I can remember the last time I became angry. It's just not something that's wired into me. So that one's kind of easy because I don't really experience it from the beginning. Sometimes I suppose a little bit when talking about like the destructive force of narcissism, something like that. There's a little bit of anger at all the suffering that people go through because of narcissism. But again, I'm not prone to anger, so that's not something that's really easily activated. Now, happiness is kind of unusual because it's considered positive, but it's not always an appropriate part of the videos that I do. Sometimes if something kind of strikes me as funny, I might, I don't know, laugh a little, maybe a very little, or almost smile or something like that. But I really do try to, for the most part, minimize that. Sometimes it's appropriate, so I kind of let it happen. But a lot of the time, it's really not congruent with what I'm trying to accomplish in the video. I would say the one I struggle with the most, though, would be sadness, the last of the emotions. And that's, well, because of the destructive force of narcissism. I talked about that. When looking at the true crime videos, all those people that suffered as a result of psychopathy and narcissism, it's really overwhelming sometimes. You know, in this profession, we're exposed to a lot of bad things that happen to a lot of people. So that's really the emotion I need to let burn off the most before I record a video. I don't want to appear sad. I don't want that affect to be conveyed because that creates a lot of bias, right? I want to present this kind of from a neutral perspective, just looking at the cold, hard facts and not injecting my opinions. So I think that sadness would be the one that is the most salient. I think one of the things that really helps me, though, in terms of dealing with that is my clinical experience. I spent a lot of time with people who have been traumatized in many, many horrible ways. And over time, I've learned how to empathize without getting emotionally invested, which of course is ethically necessary to be a counselor. We have to be able to connect, to show that we understand, to have cognitive empathy without going overboard on the affective empathy, right? Because essentially that can become sympathy, and sympathy leads to burnout. It also leads to boundary crossing. So empathy is good, but it has to be used cautiously in the counseling profession. So a question kind of related to this emotional regulation question is, what can other people do to regulate emotions, right? It's relatively easy for me, again, because I'm planning out these videos. So I've prepared a lot. It's not like this camera caught me off guard and I'm like, oh, I have to be on camera now. Then I'd be more emotionally reactive. So I think my thoughts on this really stem from that. I think in order to have a good chance at regulating emotions, you have to be prepared for an experience that could elicit emotions. So if it's like a heated conversation that you're worried about that's coming up and you're worried about maybe an anger reaction or a surprise reaction, you have to kind of play that through and essentially be exposed to those thoughts, right? Those potential interactions that would occur so that you are prepared when it comes time for that conversation or that situation, whatever it is. So again, essentially the same thing that I try to do before I turn on the camcorder, right? I try to process through any emotional reactions so that I can be as objective as possible. The difficulty, of course, is in real life, we don't always have the time to prepare, right? Things happen without warning, and then we're left to contend with our emotions in that moment. And that's when people tend to get in trouble, right? If somebody's impulsive, if they react emotionally quickly, that tends to lead to problems. So it's sometimes just the suddenness of life that, again, cannot be prevented that leads to the difficulty. So anyway, I hope I answered those questions about the emotional reactivity Again, I want to express my appreciation for subscribing to my channel and watching my channel. It's an incredible honor. If you are interested, I have a Patreon as well. I don't really promote that too much through YouTube. I'm not sure I've really promoted it at all, except putting a link on my YouTube channel on the homepage. But if you feel inclined, of course, I would appreciate help there. But if you don't, I'm really just happy that you're subscribed to YouTube and watching the content. Again, an incredible honor. And 200,000 subscribers is something that I just could not have ever imagined. As I move forward with my channel, I would ask that you please keep submitting questions. The questions are really the core of the content I produce, right? Without the questions, I don't have anything to really offer or analyze. The questions I get are absolutely fantastic. Every day when I'm looking at the comments, I look at the questions that are submitted and I think, that's a really great question. Like, that's really going to make a fantastic video, or it's going to contribute to a fantastic video. So those questions are just so important. And I think they really illustrate an incredible intellectual curiosity. And that's the part too I think really inspires me to keep making videos. That there's so many people out there that really want to learn the nuances behind these mental health constructs. Not just the overview, but really a deep dive into a lot of the detail. So again, if you can keep those questions coming, I'll keep reading them and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks again for helping my channel reach 200,000 subscribers. I'll see you soon.